Hi, David. How are you doing
I'm
today?
very good. And even during this holiday period, it seems like things are still pretty busy, which is unusual. Yeah.
They are. I think one of the reasons is also for us in India, we are focusing a lot on talent as a topic, grooming our internal consulting organization to get up for the big topics coming after the vacation and for the large projects and RFPs that we want to have. And also looking at the young professionals, right, to groom them. At the same time, the recruitment engine is on its full steam. So, on an average day, I do at least one interview for a senior manager level or a principal level position. So that's the growth that we are seeing today. Yeah, I mean, you've been in the industry for a longer period of time than me. I'm younger than you, so of course. So in your experience, you've seen so many cycles of how SAP has evolved or shaped the clients' businesses, the way the industry moves. Uh, how do you look at SAP market in the next 5 years? And Capgemini, what is Capgemini, SAP world going to look like in these 5 years? The growth, the talent especially, right? So David, let's hear from you.
Well, I think, I've been doing this for nearly 30 years. Wow. And the battle for talent, the acceleration in careers, and the amount of change in the SAP market reminds me most of around 1994, 1995, where where the original launch of R3 came in, um, and how you need to retain the staff you've got, recruit new ones, train people, cross train people. And it's the need for numbers, but the need for quality as well, and to maintain the consistent delivery that Capgemini prides to itself is really paramount. And this is all around the migration to, or the move to S4. It's not always a migration, and that is generating an awful lot of work. And even though when you look at the market, you take 1,000 customers, not all of them are moving to S4 at the same time. But if, say, 10% were moving to S4 2 years ago and now 20% are moving to S4, that means in terms of project work, the industry is twice as busy. So it doesn't mean everybody's moving. It means some are moving, and that's sustainable because not everybody is moving. But that sudden amount of extra work, and everybody thinking about it, and also people want to engage with the right partner. So quite frequently, taking work from other partners is driving an enormous amount of work, and with that, an enormous amount of opportunity for people's careers, and moving forward. And the unlike where we were 20 years ago or 30 years ago, where people didn't know SAP, but they knew other products and maybe knew an industry quite well. Now customers expect a lot more. They expect you to have good SAP experience. They expect you to have the S4 experience, plus the experience around the new things and the new ways of doing things. So the actual challenge around recruiting, retaining, and managing careers is three times as hard as it was. So, you know, 30 years ago, somebody who was good and a nice person who knew the industry could land on site and start adding value straight away. Now clients know exactly what they're getting, what they expect, and they expect somebody to be able to do those things, plus know S4, plus have lots of cycles of project work. So it is a really big challenge and a really new challenge. What do you think about that, Vivek?
Yeah, I mean, I can completely relate with what you're saying, and I know I certainly when you said talked about the 90s, the early days. I remember when I graduated in 98 and I wanted to, I'm a production engineer and MBA operations. There's nothing to do with IT. But the ERP, the attraction to get into an ERP career was so high, and that's how I started off, right? Earlier on, working hard, and the evolution of careers over a period of time from being a technical person to becoming a functional, getting into program management. I think that's how the career has been. I think you're right. Customers are expecting more of experts ready to deploy experts available, and therefore the market is where it is. However, at the same time, I think the expectation is also that we pack in more power in the experience, number of years of experience we have today, right? So 7, 8 years experienced person would have done so many different topics altogether. And the business knowledge, as you said, is very important as well, right? Not just the product, but also the business knowledge is something that is of relevance. And yeah, I can completely understand. And I think we are going back to that stage where there are great career opportunities. There's good salary to earn. There's going to be a lot of travel, right? If you're ready for it, in terms of consulting, being close to clients. And that's my next question, right? How do you see, given the pandemic, given the nature of work today, how do you think, are the opportunities evolving in terms of being close to the customer, working with European clients, the proximity? Do you see the right balance between being offshore or on-site in front of customers, right? So maybe you want to elaborate on that as well.
Well, it's not as simple as the pandemic. It's not as simple as onshore, offshore mobility. There are so many factors at play at the moment, and that affects different countries in different ways. Clearly, the pandemic is difficult, and any outbreak of the pandemic or a new variant will disrupt things. So, you have to have plenty of options when it comes to staffing a project now. You can't really rely on one. You can't trust that you will get people from one place to another and keep them there for an extended period of time. And also, if your key person is COVID tested and is 10 days off work at an important time, how do you cope with that? So, strength and breadth is really important. There's also been lots of rules in terms of how you can land in different countries, in terms of how much you have to earn when you get there, your salary, how difficult it is to move people around. My view is that you need to have all options covered now as a company looking to resource SAP projects. So you need to have a really strong presence locally. You probably need to have a nearshore capability, and you need to have a really hugely industrialized offshore capability, because that has to be something that can underpin everything and has to work really, really well. And there are still options for people to travel into countries and work in countries and work on projects. But at all times, you need to have a backup and everything. And so there are many things at play here. It's not just as simple as the pandemic, and when it's over, everybody will move. We are seeing clients taking a more informed approach about working off site. We are seeing less on site 5 days a week. We are seeing the use of Klaxoon and things like that to be able to run workshops. But we're also seeing that when it comes to it, sometimes that cup of coffee that you can have with people, or shouting at somebody in a meeting room out at, next door to where the project's just happened, and going, this isn't going to work, we have to change our way. That's so difficult to do over the telephone. So that sort of emotional stuff is meaning that we're having to work harder for everything, and we're also having to prepare so much more for everything. And because of that, the robustness of the tooling that you're using, the way that you do it, the standards and the things that we bring with Capgemini become more and more important. You cannot succeed in a new environment like this with a gang of great people just being informal and getting on with things. You have to work together to standards in a proper way, and monitoring has become more and more important. And we found things are slightly harder work. You can still achieve everything you did before. You have to prepare more. The standards have to be stronger. What are your feelings about the mobility and how things are moving?
Again, I think you're right. You're spot on there, right? I mean, if you see somebody who's a frequent traveler like me, for the last 1 year and 4 months, I've been sitting in my bedroom and working, right? So again, the restrictions are there. The pandemic has resulted in various waves in different regions. They don't time at the same time, so you have to deal with it differently. The backups are important. We have seen that across locations, whether it is close to the client, in a country, in a near shore, or even in India for that matter, right? The backup mechanisms are very important for business continuity. That builds confidence with the clients for sure. Again, I think eventually we will get used to it, and we will all be vaccinated, and probably will be more open. But there'll be a light balance between what's close to the customer and what can be done remote. But I think this has resulted in us focusing more on methods and tools, as you said. And I think the work that we did in the last 2 years, even before the pandemic, David, it is coming in very handy, very useful, because I think we thought ahead. We didn't think of the pandemic, but we thought ahead of how to make these things successful, right? The tools and accelerator, I think that is helping us, and we are more successful because we have thought through of what S4 means, how do you execute these projects, what business value means, the tools and accelerators associated. I think that's gone well. So David, my next one, next insights that I would like to have from you is, we hardly saw any drop in business really last year. Of course, it was a big cold that the pandemic led to on the business side, but we saw recovery very quickly, especially on our projects S4. And this year we have seen phenomenal growth, right? How do you look at that? What is the reason? Will clients be more brave? Whether there'll be some industries which will invest, some industries which will be conservative? What's your perspective on the investments in S4 as a topic from clients coming in the next 3 years?
Oh, well, I think to start off with, a few years ago, I mean, I've been in this role 3.5 years with a European aspect on S4. There were people doing S4 projects, basically doing what they did in ECC, but in S4. And I think we've now reached a tipping point where people are looking to use SAP and the business platform around it or other cloud technologies to actually be a digital platform for transformation that goes beyond the scope of where ECC used to be. So that's been a massive change. And the new ones we're seeing coming in the last few years, whether it's patient side or electric vehicles or whatever, expand beyond that core and touch many more customers and many more stakeholders. So that's a huge expansion in the scope of SAP and the business case and things like that. Sustainability is something that's driving a lot of work, and if you're going to operate in new markets in sustainable ways, we're seeing a lot of that with truck manufacturers or utilities or oil companies, and that's driving projects. Fundamentally, new digital business models, many of which have been accelerated by the pandemic, are now meaning people have to change their businesses and do it quicker and realize they can't miss out. That's happened in waves. So we saw it a lot in retail to start off with. We've seen it in automotive, and we're now seeing that to spread to other industries. When it gets to consumer products and when it gets to some of the other places, it's going to accelerate even further. So yeah, certain industries have led the way, and we're seeing an expansion of the scope. We're seeing an expansion in the areas of business that SAP will touch. We're seeing greater knowledge required for all our consultants, and we're seeing it in certain countries coming first. So clearly, I think, in my opinion, Germany were first. That's not to be unexpected, given the proximity to the SAP and how they treat SAP there. It now seems to be sweeping through other countries. The Scandinavian areas, the Nordics, have gone very, very quickly. And there's still a few more, but the wave is sweeping across Europe and across industry by industry. There's still a few that are a bit slower. There's a lot of work to keep people sustained for quite a long time. And I think some of the biggest industries, consumer products notably, hasn't really started doing this in a great number yet. That will completely transform the opportunity for people and the prospects for jobs and the number of people required when they get going, because that's where the biggest footprints are. But
Yes.
you have a lot of people with thinking about SAP, especially in India. While in the UK, I don't think there's many university students think about SAP as a career. They fall into it, or they join a consultancy and get put onto an SAP project, or do it internally and then go and join a consultancy. In India, it appears to be, this is only from my limited knowledge through LinkedIn and things like that, it appears to be a real career choice where you choose to do SAP, you choose it as your path. What's your advice and guidance on people out there who are sitting there at university, working really hard and thinking about a career in SAP?
I absolutely agree. It is very attractive. We get so many pings or connects on LinkedIn or otherwise emails, where people approach saying that asking for career advice, right? Again, I think SAP is a very broad-based product, and there are so many different possibilities to work with, right? So, people talk of artificial intelligence, machine learning. People talk of cloud as a cloud solution, business processes, and many other things. And all this is part of one platform called SAP, right? So you have business processes, you can use data as a topic to build insights, you have better decision making, you apply all the buzzwords that are prevalent in the industry today into our context, and we can actually have a great career which encompasses all this, right? So I think it's great. The only advice I have for people who want to come in is that you need to be patient. You need to learn, business processes. You need to learn what the client's business, how does it operate using a solution like SAP. Of course, there are different technology flavors that can come into play. So you can't have every 6 months, you can't change your job, right? Really, in terms of, you really need to be more grounded, more detailed, and over a period of time build a great career in SAP, because the more you gain a knowledge in a particular industry, in a particular business process module, or in the technology play that SAP offers, the better equipped you are to handle the career and prospects of working close to clients and even travel abroad for that matter. Yeah, David.
And then, my one feeling I have, and this is upsets a lot of people always, because everybody's frustrated with their career and how it's going. I want to be higher. I want to be the boss. I mean, I want to be the boss of Capgemini. I have come to terms with the fact it's a bit unlikely. But everybody starting the career thinks they can be the boss of Accenture or Capgemini or one of the new firms or TCS or whatever. There is such a demand for good people in the industry that if you are good and you concentrate on being excellent, if you concentrate on getting on with the customer, if you concentrate on understanding the industry and understanding the technology and having a broad view, your time will come. It might take a few months longer sometimes. Other colleagues might accelerate their careers by changing firms or something like that. But in the end, your talent will get you to the place that you deserve to be at. And you might have been a few months behind at some point or a few months ahead at some point. But in the end, if you're good, you will get behind. Now, this idea, in a top firm like Capgemini, that you're held back ever because, we need so many good people. People are not held back. There might be till you've completed a project or a particular assignment, or a client might not want to let you go, that these problems come into play. But it's temporary. And over a period of time, you will get ahead. If you do your very best, if you think about how you fulfill what your company wants and what your clients want, you will progress naturally. And there's an awful lot of people focusing on themselves and their career and not focusing on their employer and their client, which will see the acceleration. We need more vice presidents. We need more executive vice presidents. We need more directors. We want to make them. We want to get them going through. So why would we hold anybody back? It is a really strange thing, and that's a very personal view that, if you think about what you can do for your clients and customers, you can move forward.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I've seen, even my own journey with Capgemini over the last 8 years, right? I've been client-centric, working with customers, working with people, and I think it's given me good dividends by just focusing on what are the basics, right? Creating value for internal stakeholders as well as clients, right? So I agree with you, David, on that one. Yeah. And I think it's important to recognize that if you have the tenacity to do the right things with your customers in the SAP world, you will grow, right? I mean, growth will come to you. It's like this. I mean, the brand vision that we have, get the future you want. We are very entrepreneurial. We have the freedom to operate. We allow job rotations within the organization to allow to pick up different types of projects, and that's enriching, right? We are not very heavily structured in a manner that there is no moment possible. I see so many people moving from AMS to SAP projects to SAP projects to S4, to be working with close to clients, to be part of the CoE as they build the experience, right? So much richness that they can build over a period of time, having a good career with us, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So hard though it's for me to understand as someone who's lived in the UK all life, there still are a lot of people out there who apply to me directly who want a career with SAP and also want to come to Europe or travel. What is your advice for people who see that as an important part of their career and their next steps?
Again, I think, of course, that's the right question to ask somebody like me, because I have been in that place where I wanted aspire to work in Europe. I've worked in Europe for 2-3 years in my career in the SAP space. So it's natural for Indians to have that inclination, because there is a certain element of wow factor, ego factor, as well as family aspiration, right? To be close, to be working in Europe or in the US for that matter. Yes, but get the basics right? Build your experience, build your quality of experience. It is also about understanding businesses, being great at communicating value, consulting skills. And another dimension is culture, right? France is not the same as Germany, it's not the same as UK. So it's not that one day you're just going to land somewhere and then you're going to be the best. You have to learn local ways of doing things and be patient, not in your first year, not in your third year or fifth year, but if you have the talent will take you places, short term, long term, or even permanently for that matter. So I would say there are various dimensions to your career. If you have aspirations to be abroad, yes, we can always provide you the opportunity. but it happens at the right occasion with the right client with the right skill set. And you should have that mindset if you are aspiring to that. We are happy to support that career possibility also.
Yeah,
Yes.
a lot of it is based on relationships and knowing people in those, and the best way to do that is to work and be successful in India, get to know people, and then, like I said about careers, you'll be invited to go to workshops, you'll be invited to meetings, you'll be invited to take bigger roles, and it's all about being better economically and also in terms of skills than the person that you're going to take the job off, and it's as simple as that. And if you can prove that, then because just the sheer scale of the pool of talent in India, we cannot resource the entire SAP S4 wave from the European countries. We're not going to get people trained and through in time. It will come, and it's a matter of getting to know people and moving across. There's no magic bullet, but if you're getting on well with people, they will invite you. We've just had an example where a trusted finance consultant has left, and we would, oh, this is terrible, and he was European, doing a great job, and we thought, well, how do we replace him? And a guy from India has taken his role, and he's going to come across. But he was known to the project team; they trusted him, and he came across, and he's going to do a fantastic job. And that's a sort of example. And then at the higher levels, we've got a guy who's come out of India now. I think it's been two years, who's now running our Swiss practice and our Belgian practice. And that is the sort of example that you get. But that's because we knew him. He was proven. We liked him. He knew everybody, and it works. So that there will always be those opportunities for you to take, but you've got to get that trust. It won't just happen because you think you should or because you came from somewhere else. I think it's through that. Two, you've got children. I've got children who are too old to become SAP consultants now, though one of them might in the future. What do you think for the next generation coming through about, is it a good career? How long will it last? What do you think? I mean, it's kept me
Okay.
going for 30 years. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll have a great future. Let me go back in history, right? In 2000, there was a question asked to the CEO of the company I was working at. It was a very small firm. It was called Origin Information Technology, 400 employees in India. And somebody raised a question saying that, how long will ABAP last? I want to work in Java that time, right? And the answer the guy gave is, at the end of the day, it's about business processes. And we know that, SAP ABAP is still prevalent. SAP is a very strong product. It is still the platform and the backend of which runs organizations. And I believe that the direction that SAP has taken, the acquisitions that they have made over the period of time, the modernization that is happening with S4 and the cloud play, we are there for the next 20 years, 15 to 20 years for sure. And I don't think in IT you can see that far. So we did not see the cloud wave coming into 15 years back, right? But it's so strong right now. But 15 years back, we definitely knew SAP was there. It continues to be there as a strong player, and we are confident that another 20 years, SAP will evolve as a product. It will be the backend or backbone for to run organizational business processes, creating value for our clients, and we are going to have fantastic careers for the next 15 to 20 years for sure, David. That's my view.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think SAP, I think there was a sort of a bit of a talk where people were saying, well, why do we need things? Why not? SAP is not that relevant. We do everything in data clouds and we do AI and UI. All this stuff is nothing to do with SAP. I think it's been proven that in the end, you need a really good ERP solution joined up to your front office and your customers and your users to be able to do this complicated, sophisticated processes that we have to do now. And those processes are only getting harder and more difficult to get to work. So SAP has actually become more important as long as we believe that and force that into the marketplace, and it remains very, very central to everything we do. And that I agree, the next 20 years, 20, 30 years ago, SAP had lots of competition. PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, that's all gone. It's basically, if you do something complicated, if you make something complicated, if you need to know the provenance of that good, if you know how to manufacture and maintain, SAP is the only show in town, and I think that will provide work for going forward for a very long time. It's kind of in our own hands as to how interesting that work is, into how far that goes deep into the business outside of the core, and that's us to do. So I agree with you. We should agree. We work with each other, so we should agree. One final statement, Vivek. What would your final message be to everybody?
I think, yeah, I mean, be client centric for sure. Add value in the projects that we deliver for the customer. Understand that businesses, because SAP is a tool which is configured to a business context, right? the technology play will keep evolving, whether it's cloud or the front ends and other elements. But be more, as I said, in the business process context, and you will have, good career in the next 15 years, right? You will change your tracks with the direction that SAP takes. So I'm confident. I'm confident for the rest of my 15 years of my career. I'll have a great job and I'll keep growing in this. Thank you.
Yeah, final thought from me is the same. I see consulting as a kind of three-legged stool. You need to know the technology. Yeah, you can learn that. You need to be a thoroughly good person, I'm not a good person, a nice person who can get on with people at all levels, whether that's the chief executive or a guy who works in the warehouse or a shipping clerk or whatever. And you have to understand the industry that you're in. And you have to understand why you're doing the SAP project. It's not just about technology, it's about improving things or entering a new market or reducing carbon or whatever it is. For those guys considering a career in SAP, get out there, read the newspapers. I had a call on Friday with a sustainable energy firm, and the weekend I read about it in the Times, and I went, wow, I've just had a talk with them about what they're trying to do. Keep up to date with what's going on in the market and the way things are going, and develop that sort of sense of what's going on, and you will have a great career. Capgemini keeps your technology skills up to date, teach you the consulting skills, and stay thoroughly nice and focused on good outcomes, and everything will be all right. Lovely to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you as well, David. Always fun. Yeah.
All
Great.
right.
Thank you for your
Thank you very
insights.
much. Thank you. Bye.